Walk into any Home Goods or Hobby Lobby in America right now, and you'll witness something strange. Thousands of people, intelligent, educated people like you, filling their carts with mass-produced signs saying live, laugh, love, ceramic angels with inspirational quotes, decorative farmhouse letters spelling gather, and artificial succulents in distressed wooden crates. Here's what's strange. Nobody actually believes these objects are beautiful. Nobody thinks that factory-made sign captures the complexity of love or the texture of a life well lived. And yet we buy them. We fill our homes with them. We feel somehow comforted by them. Roger Scruton, the British philosopher who spent 50 years thinking about beauty, had a word for this phenomenon. He called it kitsch, and his definition will make you deeply uncomfortable. Kitsch is what happens when you want a feeling of meaning without paying the cost of meaning. It's fake emotion for people who can't afford or won't endure the real thing. But here's where it gets personal. Scruton didn't reserve kitsch for tacky home decor. He saw it everywhere in modern life. In the movies that manipulate you into crying, in the Instagram posts performing authenticity, in the music designed to give you pre-packaged feelings, even in the way we talk about our spiritual lives. The error we're making, and it's nearly universal, is mistaking these emotional props for genuine aesthetic and spiritual experience. If you ever felt vaguely guilty about that decorative sign you bought, or if you notice how certain songs or movies seem to produce emotions too easily, you're already sensing what Scruton will make explicit. You're not shallow for enjoying kitsch, you're human. We're all susceptible to it because it offers something we desperately want: beauty, meaning, emotion, transcendence. The promise of this exploration is that you'll learn to recognize the difference between authentic aesthetic experience and its cheap substitute. And more importantly, you'll discover why choosing the real thing, despite its cost, is the only path to genuine consolation. If you want to discover more about philosophers who defend beauty in an age of ugliness, subscribe to this channel where we explore the thinking of the great thinkers who saw what others missed. Let's start with Scruton's precise formulation, because he didn't use kitsch the way we casually throw it around. For Scruton, kitsch isn't just tacky stuff or bad taste. It's something far more specific and far more dangerous. Kitsch, he wrote, is a preference to the sensory props of an emotion rather than the emotion itself. It's choosing the symbols of love, the heart emoji, the Hallmark card, the Nicholas Sparks movie, over the terrifying vulnerability of actual love. It's selecting the signs of spirituality, the Buddha statue from Target, the blessed wall hanging, the Zen garden app, instead of the discipline and sacrifice genuine spiritual life demands. Notice what Scruton's doing here. He's not saying kitsch objects are harmless fun. He's diagnosing them as substitutes, emotional counterfeits that prevent you from seeking the real thing. Have you ever watched a manipulative movie scene designed to make you cry, and you do cry, but afterward you feel somehow empty? That's because you just consumed processed emotion. Your tears were real, but they were a response to manufactured stimuli, not to genuine beauty or tragedy. Let me make this concrete. Imagine two experiences of grief. In the first, you're at a funeral, and someone plays Amazing Grace on bagpipes, a song now so associated with funerals it automatically triggers sadness. You feel moved. In the second, you're reading a particular passage from C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed, where he describes the precise texture of loss after his wife's death, and suddenly your own losses become vivid and terrible and undeniable. Both produce tears. But Scruton would say only the second is genuine aesthetic experience. The first is kitsch. You're crying at the idea of sadness, at the cultural signal for grief, not at grief itself. Here's where Scruton gets really interesting. He argues that kitsch is fundamentally about avoiding cost. Real beauty demands something from you. When you stand before a Rembrandt self-portrait in the Frick collection, those aging eyes looking at you with brutal honesty about mortality, that costs you something. It requires you to confront your own aging, your own death, the passage of time. You can't consume a Rembrandt casually while scrolling. It demands your full presence, your vulnerability, your willingness to be changed. Kitsch, by contrast, asks nothing. The live, laugh, love sign gives you the sensation of having absorbed life wisdom without requiring you to actually examine how you're living. The Thomas Kincaid painting of a glowing cottage gives you the feeling of homey comfort without demanding you build an actual home. with all the sacrifice, compromise, and daily maintenance that entails. The inspirational Instagram quote gives you the experience of having encountered profound truth without the years of study and practice genuine philosophy requires. You know what fascinates me most about this? Scruton understood that kitsch is ultimately a form of self-protection. We choose it not because we're stupid or have bad taste, but because authentic aesthetic experience is dangerous. Real beauty makes claims on you. It tells you the truth about mortality, about sacrifice, about the cost of love and meaning. Kitsch lies kindly. It tells you that meaning is easy, that beauty requires no discipline, that you can have transcendence without transformation. Think about the difference between a carefully composed photograph of a real sunset. All its complexity, its fleeting specificity, its reminder that this moment will never come again, and a mass-produced poster of a perfect sunset with "Dream Big" printed across it. The real sunset photograph confronts you with time's passage and beauty's fragility. The poster lets you have the idea of inspiration without the discomfort of actual aspiration or the risk of actual dreams. This is Scruton's fundamental insight. Kitsch is successful precisely because it offers counterfeit consolation. And counterfeit consolation is more comfortable than the real thing. Now, let's get uncomfortably specific. Scruton gives us tools to identify kitsch in our own lives, and I want to walk you through what he called the diagnostic signals. This isn't about shaming your decor choices. It's about developing the capacity to see what you're actually consuming. Signal number 1, pre-process emotion. Have you ever noticed that certain songs or movies seem to bypass your critical faculties entirely and go straight to your tear ducts? I'm talking about the Disney movie climax with the swelling orchestra, the slow-motion reunion scene, the dying dog looking up one last time. You cry. Everyone cries. But here's the question Scruton wants you to ask. Are you crying at something real, or are you crying because a filmmaker pushed buttons designed to produce that response? Scruton would say, if the emotion can be produced mechanically, same cues, same response every time, it's kitsch. Real aesthetic experience has resistance. It requires interpretation, presence, genuine encounter. You can't manufacture it algorithmically. Signal number 2, sentimentality without sacrifice. Look around your home right now. How many objects offer you symbols of values without requiring you to live those values? Family, signs and homes where nobody eats dinner together. Faith decor in houses where prayer never happens. Gratitude, journals purchased but never written in. This is what Scruton calls the sensory props of belief. You get to feel like you value something without paying the cost of actually valuing it. Notice how this works in reality. The person who buys a gather sign for their dining room often eats alone scrolling their phone. The presence of sign creates the feeling that gathering matters, which relieves the guilt of not actually gathering. The kitsch object functions as a substitute for the real practice, not a reminder toward it. Signal number 3, easy transcendence. Here's a painful one. Have you noticed how spirituality has been kitsched? Yoga studios with Buddha heads as decor, meditation apps that treat ancient contemplative practices like Spotify playlists, mindfulness reduced to a 3-minute breathing exercise between meetings. Scruton saw this clearly. Genuine spiritual life costs everything. It demands discipline, renunciation, daily death to self. Kitsch spirituality offers a sensation of transcendence. The Instagram-worthy prayer beads, the good vibes poster, the cleanse juice, without any actual transcendence. Real spiritual experience, like real aesthetic experience, transforms you against your will. It breaks you down. It demands sacrifice. Kitsch spirituality promises transformation without cost, enlightenment without discipline, peace without the dark night of the soul. Signal number 4, stereotyped emotion. Scruton pointed out that kitsch always deals in stereotypes, not particulars. It gives you the general idea of love, hearts, roses, sunset silhouettes, rather than the specific texture of loving this person with their annoying habits and your failures. It offers a concept of home, farmhouse aesthetic, shiplap mason jars, instead of your actual home with a specific history and irreplaceable meanings. Think about this concretely. A Nicholas Sparks novel gives you love, the trademarked, stereotyped, universally recognizable version. It's the same in every book. Attractive people, obstacles overcome, swelling emotions. But when you read the letters between your grandparents during the war, awkward, specific, full of references only they understand, that's particular love. It resists generalization. It can be mass-produced. Signal number 5, consumption versus contemplation. Here's the really diagnostic question. Can you consume it while distracted, or does it demand your full attention? Kitsch is designed for consumption. You can have Enya playing in the background while you answer emails. You can glance at your inspirational wall art while walking past. You can cry at the Hallmark movie while checking your phone. Real beauty refuses consumption. Try having Beethoven's Opus 131 string quartet on in the background. It doesn't work. It demands you stop and listen, or you miss it entirely. Try casually glancing at a Caravaggio. You can't. The darkness and light trap your eyes, force you to confront the violence or tenderness depicted. Real aesthetic experience is resistant to distraction. If something can be consumed while you're doing something else, Scruton would say, that's your kitsch signal. Now, for the really uncomfortable part. If kitsch is counterfeit consolation, why is it everywhere? Why do intelligent people who could recognize and appreciate genuine beauty, choose the fake? Scruton's answer is both compassionate and devastating. Because real aesthetic experience is expensive and most of us are broke. I don't mean financially broke, though that matters. I mean broken attention, broken time, broken emotional capacity, broken spiritual discipline. And kitsch offers beauty for people who can't afford the real thing. Let me show you something amazing. Scruton noticed that kitsch exploded during the Industrial Revolution, precisely when two things happened simultaneously. First, genuine craftsmanship became expensive. The handmade was replaced by the mass-produced. Second, traditional sources of meaning, religion, community, craft tradition, collapsed for millions of people. What filled the void? Kitsch. Factory-produced sentiment for factory workers whose labor had been stripped of meaning. Notice how this pattern repeats in our moment. We're living through the second wave of this crisis. The attention economy has industrialized not just objects, but emotions themselves. You can mass-produce feeling now. An algorithm can determine which combination of images, music, and pacing will make you cry. A focus group greeting card can trigger nostalgia in 89% of consumers. A Thomas Kincaid print can produce a sensation of comfort in buyers who've never experienced actual comfort. Here comes a really interesting part. Scruton argued that kitsch is successful because modern life creates genuine hunger for beauty, meaning, and transcendence, but simultaneously destroys our capacity to pursue them authentically. Think about this in your own life. You spend 8 hours in a fluorescent-lit office doing abstract knowledge work that produces no tangible object. You drive home through strip mall ugliness, visual chaos designed only to catch your exhausted attention. You arrive at your apartment or subdivision house, probably architecturally mediocre, designed for resale, not for living. You're starving for beauty, for meaning, for some sense that life has texture and significance. And then you see it, a little sign that says, "Home Sweet Home" with a heart, or a scented candle called Serenity, or a playlist called Music for Deep Thinking. These objects promise to fill the void instantly, without requiring you to have the energy you don't have, to develop the disciplines you were never taught, to pay the costs you can't afford. Scruton understood this compassionately. He didn't mock people for consuming kitsch. He mourned the cultural conditions that make kitsch necessary. When genuine beauty is locked away in museums you can't access, when traditional crafts are economically impossible, when your education never taught you to read deeply or look carefully, how could you choose anything but kitsch? And here's where Scruton becomes demanding. Compassion doesn't mean acceptance, because kitsch doesn't just reflect our poverty of attention and spirit. It deepens it. Every time you consume pre-processed emotion instead of earning real emotion, you atrophy the muscles required for authentic experience. Every time you choose a stereotype over particular, you weaken your capacity for genuine encounter. Kitsch is addictive precisely because it makes you worse at the real thing. Imagine this scene for a moment. You're tired after a long day. You could put on a string quartet and sit quietly, letting the music reveal its complexity slowly, requiring your full presence. Or you could put on a relaxing classical music playlist designed to be ignored while you scroll Instagram. The second option is easier. It asks nothing. And every time you choose it, the first option becomes harder, more foreign, more intimidating. This is how Kitsch wins. Not by being better, but by being easier. And in our exhausted, distracted, overstimulated moment, easier wins every single time. If this analysis is hitting uncomfortably close to home, hit like so more people can discover why their homes are full of objects that promise meaning, but deliver only its shadow. The economic logic is perfect and terrible. Kitsch is cheap to produce and easy to consume, while real beauty is expensive to create and difficult to experience. In a market economy of attention and emotion, kitsch will always outcompete authenticity, unless we consciously, deliberately, expensively choose otherwise. So what's the alternative? If kitsch is the easy path and we've established it's everywhere, and we're all susceptible to it, what does Scruton actually want from us? Here's where his philosophy becomes genuinely challenging, because he's not offering a simple swap, buy this instead of that. He's calling for something much more difficult, the cultivation of real aesthetic experience, which requires sacrifice most of us aren't prepared to make. Scruton's fundamental claim is this: beauty is inseparable from difficulty. Not difficulty in the sense of being deliberately obscure or inaccessible. He hated pretentious modernist art as much as kitsch. But difficulty in the sense that genuine aesthetic experience demands your full presence, your vulnerability, your willingness to be changed. Let's break down what this costs in practice. First, it costs time. You cannot experience a late Beethoven string quartet while doing something else. You have to sit for 35 minutes and only listen. No phone, no multitasking, just you and the music. For most of us, trained in perpetual distraction, this is nearly impossible. We've lost the capacity for sustained attention. Scruton would say, you have to rebuild that capacity, and rebuilding requires disciplined practice. Think about reading a serious novel, not a beach read, but something like George Eliot's Middlemarch. It's 800 pages of dense Victorian prose about people in a provincial English town. It doesn't offer immediate gratification. For the first 100 pages, you might be confused about who's who and why you should care. But if you persist, if you give it the time and attention it demands, something remarkable happens. The characters become more real than your neighbors. Their moral struggles illuminate your own. The novel's wisdom enters your bloodstream in a way no self-help book could match. That's what Scruton means by the cost of beauty. You have to pay attention in a world designed to fracture attention into monetizable microseconds. Second, it costs emotional honesty. Kitsch lets you have feelings without facing what those feelings mean. Real aesthetic experience forces you to confront the truth those feelings reveal. When you stand before Rothko's late dark paintings, those somber rectangles of black and gray, you can't pretend about death anymore. The paintings won't let you. They insist on mortality's reality, on the void we're all approaching. That's terrifying. The live, laugh, love sign lets you feel like you've contemplated life without actually contemplating your own death. Notice how this works in music. Scruton loved sacred music, Bach's Mass in B minor, Palestrina's Masses, Gregorian chant. But he was clear about what these pieces demand. When you truly listen to the crucifixes from Bach's Mass, you're not consuming a pleasant sound. You're being confronted with the torture and death of God. That's the sacrifice Bach is depicting, musically rendering the nails, the darkness, the abandonment. If you let that music work on you, it will break something in you. Kitsch music, even Christian kitsch like contemporary worship music, often avoids that breaking. It gives you the sensation of worship without the dying to self that worship requires. Third, it costs discipline. Real aesthetic education takes years. Scruton himself spent decades learning to see, studying architecture, training his eye through drawing, reading deeply in aesthetic philosophy, practicing music. He didn't wake up one day able to distinguish genuine beauty from fake. He cultivated that discrimination through patient, lifelong practice. Here's what this means practically. If you want to escape kitsch, you have to train yourself to recognize and endure real beauty. You might start by visiting a museum once a month and spending 30 minutes with a single painting, not glancing at everything, but truly looking at one work until you start to see it. Or you might commit to reading one serious book per quarter, slowly, with attention, taking notes. Or you might learn an instrument, accepting that it will sound terrible for years before it sounds beautiful. This is wildly countercultural. Everything in modern life tells you that meaning should be instant, that beauty should be accessible without effort, that transformation should be comfortable. Scruton insists on the opposite. The things worth having cost everything, and anything promising them cheaply is selling you a lie. Wait until you see what he says happens when you actually pay that cost. Here's the astonishing thing about Scruton's diagnosis of kitsch. It's not ultimately pessimistic. Yes, he's showing you how much of your life is filled with emotional counterfeits. Yes, he's demonstrating how exhausting modern life makes the pursuit of real beauty. But the reason he spent 50 years on this topic is because he believed passionately that authentic aesthetic experience is possible and that it offers something kitsch can never provide: real consolation. Remember Scruton's famous phrase, "The consolation of imaginary things is not imaginary consolation." He meant that genuine art, even though it depicts imaginary people and situations, offers actual, effective consolation for the real griefs of life. But kitsch, even though it promises consolation, delivers only its imaginary substitute. You feel momentarily better, but nothing has actually been healed or transformed. Let me make this concrete through Scruton's own life. After his first wife left him, he went through a period of genuine despair. He described sitting in his farmhouse in England, devastated, questioning everything. What consoled him wasn't inspirational posters or uplifting music designed to make him feel better. It was Schubert's late piano sonatas, specifically the B-flat major sonata, which Scruton said contains within it both the unbearable pain of loss and the affirmation that life, despite everything, has meaning. Notice what Schubert's music didn't do. It didn't tell him everything would be fine. It didn't offer cheap optimism or promise easy recovery. Instead, it held his grief musically, gave it form and beauty, and in doing so made it bearable. The music said, yes, this suffering is real. Yes, it's terrible. And yes, there is still beauty in the world, and therefore reason to continue. That's what real aesthetic experience offers that kitsch cannot. Truthful consolation. Kitsch lies to you kindly. Everything is fine. Look at the pretty cottage with the warm glow. Don't think about death or pain or difficulty. Real beauty tells you the truth. Life is tragic. Beauty is fragile. Death comes for everyone, but embeds that truth in such beauty that the truth becomes bearable. You know what fascinates me most about this? Once you develop the capacity to recognize and receive real beauty, kitsch stops working on you. It's like when you stop eating processed food for a few months, and then you try a fast food burger, and it tastes like chemicals and sadness. Your palate has been re-educated. You can taste the difference between real and fake. This happens with aesthetic experience too. When you spend time with real art, real music, real literature, the manipulative Disney climax stops producing tears. You see the machinery. You notice how the filmmakers are pushing buttons. And instead of crying, you feel vaguely insulted. They're treating you like you can't handle real emotion, so they're giving you the processed version. But here's the liberation. When kitsch stops working, you're not left with nothing. You're left with capacity for genuine aesthetic experience that kitsch was actually blocking. Scruton believed that human beings are made for beauty, that we have a natural orientation toward it, but that kitsch short-circuits that orientation. It's like pornography versus actual intimacy. The fake seems to satisfy the desire, but actually prevents the real satisfaction from occurring. When you clear kitsch out of your life, when you remove the live, laugh, love signs, when you stop consuming manipulative movies, when you quit seeking spirituality as aesthetic experience, you create space. Empty space. Uncomfortable space. And in that space, if you're patient, real beauty can actually find you. Scruton gives practical guidance here. Start small. Replace one piece of kitsch with one real thing. Instead of the mass-produced sunset poster, get a real photograph of a place that matters to you. Instead of the Spotify relaxing classical playlist, learn to listen to one complete piece of music. Instead of the inspirational quote book, read one chapter of a genuinely wise book every morning. The transformation won't be instant. Scruton is honest about this. Your tastes have been formed by decades of consuming kitsch. It will take time to reform it toward beauty. But he insists, and his own life proves it, that it's possible. You can learn to see again. You can recover the capacity for genuine aesthetic experience. You can escape the addiction to cheap emotion and discover the far deeper satisfaction of the real thing. And when you do, something remarkable happens. You stop needing so much. The person addicted to kitsch is always hungry, always consuming, always seeking the next hit of fake emotion, because it never actually satisfies. But the person who has learned to receive real beauty finds that a single genuine aesthetic experience, 30 minutes with a Vermeer painting, an hour with a Bach cantata, an evening reading poetry, can nourish you for weeks. You began this conversation perhaps thinking kitsch was just about tacky decor or bad taste, a minor aesthetic issue, slightly embarrassing but ultimately harmless. But Scruton has shown you something far more serious. Kitsch is a systematic replacement of genuine aesthetic and spiritual experience with cheap counterfeits. It's not a minor problem. It's the crisis of modern life. The recognition you've gained, the ability to identify the sensory props of belief in your own home, your entertainment, your spiritual practices, is genuinely transformative. You can't unsee it now. Every inspirational poster, every manipulative movie scene, every mass-produced spiritual object will reveal itself as the substitute it is. Here's what you can do immediately. Choose one area of your life currently filled with kitsch and clear it out. Maybe it's your living room decor. Maybe it's your music consumption. Maybe it's your spiritual practice. Create empty space. Then, patiently, introduce one real thing, one genuine artwork, one complete piece of serious music, one authentically wise book. As Scruton wrote, "Beauty is an ultimate value, something that we pursue for its own sake, and for pursuit of which no further reason need be given." You don't need kitsch's easy consolation when you've tasted beauty's truthful kind. Subscribe to this channel to continue exploring why the difficult path toward real beauty is the only one worth walking. Next, we'll examine Scruton's answer to modern architecture's ugliness and why beautiful buildings matter for human flourishing.